It's a brand new Screen Team on KWOC. We are all about doing some movie reviews for you this evening. We've got a full hour of movie reviews, but we're going to start off with a movie that you can find on DVD right now. It's called Mr. Church. This movie came out in November of last year in 2016, and it stars Eddie Murphy. And it's a movie that you might not know about. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I've got Maisha here to review it with me, and Maisha was the one who introduced this movie to me. She's like, Chris, this movie's awesome. You got to see it. You got to see it. And I'm like, you know what? No, I don't have to see it. But then she's like, no, we're going to do it for the Screen Team, so you have to see it. You have
to watch it.
So that's what we're doing here. That's what we're reviewing first up for the Screen Team. Maisha, first off, Mr. Church. Who is Mr. Church?
Mr. Church is a rather enigmatic and mysterious person all at one time. They never fully give a background story of Mr. Church, which I really actually liked about it. He was a man that came into this family's life to essentially cook for them. That's what he was supposed to do, and it turned into years of so much more. And I absolutely love Eddie Murphy in this role. I love it. It was not comedic. It was very serious, and I thought he played it. He acted it very well. There are scenes. The movie made me cry. I'll just be honest. It did. It made me cry. I knew I was going to cry before it happened, but it still caught you off guard. And he played it with such a subtlety. And he let Britt Robertson carry a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
Even though he was never in the shadows, but his presence was known without being overt. And I love the subtlety of the movie. You're
right. There was a lot of subtlety in this film. You know, you don't see Eddie Murphy go in one direction or the other. He's Mr. Church. This is the way it's, going to be. Yes, ma'am. He doesn't seem to weigh his emotions in one way or another. Later on in the film, you see him kind of do that, but only for a little bit. Yeah. I think I know why you like this movie.
Why?
Because there's a lot of cooking in this movie. And Maisha loves to cook. She'll tell me, she'll be like, oh, Chris, I made these pork chops and I put apple sauce with a vinaigrette on it. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? But this movie, it goes out there with food. It shows food.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
But the point I think of the food, of the cooking, is that cooking really does, and food brings people together. Mm-hmm. If you find nothing else to talk about, you can find some common ground over meals. Mm-hmm. And if you really love to cook, you put love and passion into it. And even though he was not an emotional man, when it came to his food, he was very serious about what he placed in front of you. And I just loved how, as a child, she tried so hard to just hate it. Oh, I'm not eating it. And it kind of reminded me of the Bugs Bunny cartoon a very long time ago, when cartoons were great, when he wanted to pretend he hated all the food, but he's just demolishing all these vegetables. Oh, it's terrible. And I loved how he showed his love for the family throughout their entire lives through his food. He would never outwardly really express it. And you're right, I do love cooking. And
he showed his love for not just a few members he showed love of generations of that family. The commitment he made to that family. He was only supposed to spend 6 months, working for them and cooking for them, and it ended up being a lifetime of not only service but friendship and love and family, and I think those are the big kind of sticking points that you had to take from this movie. Family and love and cooking and great music and jazz, and this movie.
The music was great.
Yeah, the music was awesome.
I just love the fact that at the very end of this movie, when everyone is in his backyard, there's still people coming that were telling her whole sides of his life that she still never knew. There was so many sections to him that she was confined to one aspect of his personality, of who he was, and she never knew what he did at the club. And I thought that it was phenomenal. She knew one side of him that other people didn't know. He never gave any one person.
Yeah, but the funny thing about that was he didn't let them in on that part of his life. And the other part of the life, the music scene, they didn't know he could cook.
Right.
He was just kind of like, you don't need to know this part about my life, and you guys don't need to know this part about my life. He was very, very guarded and try to separate both of those entities from crossing into each other.
I secretly wanted them to kind of bring it all together at the
I
end.
did too.
To tell us who Mr. Church really was and a little more of his backstory. You did get a little bit about him having a hard time with his father, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that they didn't, because it still left you with he died as he lived, a mystery to almost everyone that knew him.
Even the viewers too.
So.
Yeah. A few scenes that I enjoyed. The first scene where you see Mr. Church cooking for the family, and the little girl's like, I don't want, he cooked him like a steak and just beautiful, beautiful setup of food. And this little girl's like, dude, I want Apple Jacks.
Yeah.
And Mr. Church is like, what's Apple Jacks, And then later on in that particular scene, the girl's still very, very angry about Mr. Church being there, and she goes and tells her teacher. The teacher's like, how's your day so far? And she's like, oh, terrible. We got this new cook. He's black, and he cooks grits with special, what did he like, with special ingredients. And the teacher's like, what? Do you have any favorite scenes from Mr. Church?
Oh, I have a lot of favorite scenes. I would say when her mother passes.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes out on that balcony, and he sits out there, and he just silently cries. He's very strong, and he has that moment of vulnerability.
Yeah,
I love that, because it did show, he did stand her up and dance with her, and when her daughter wasn't around, he treated her like a lady.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he came by her being a mistress. He treated her like a lady.
That's right.
Towards the end of her life, and I do love that the young lady's friend, who's just like, I want to go see Mr. Church. I want to go to your house all the time. And I would love to have someone come and cook for me. When she got older, she had such a different life that it was just amazing to see that who you grow up being friends with may not always be who you're friends with when you get older.
That's true.
Your lives will take drastic turns.
That's true. I think it's also important to say that Mr. Church, he not only cooked for them. I mean, when the mother was sick with cancer and going through chemo and stuff like that, the daughter even said, Mr. Church did this, he did this, he did this, and he did this. My only responsibility was to give my mom a bath, which she hated doing, but Mr. Church took care of everything else. And it's really kind of like a surprise sleeper type of film. When I saw it, I had heard that Eddie Murphy did a good job, but I was like, what, I'm not interested in seeing this film. I just but you were like, let's do it, let's review it, and I'm glad you did, because it's a very, very good movie. I think it's a movie that's going to surprise a lot of people when they see it.
Definitely. I actually just saw a few people post about it 2 nights ago, like, oh my gosh, I'm bawling, I'm only halfway through this movie, and I was like, just wait, you're going to cry about 3 more times. But it's not about the tears that you shed. It's really, you do feel involved in these people's lives. And it's been a really long time since really Lackawanna Blues that I felt involved. I'm just like, oh, what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're not pregnant. Just
What were you doing in college, girl?
Well, I know what you were doing.
The movie's called Mr. Church. You can find it on DVD. Coming up after the break, we're going to review the new Disney film, which is coming to DVD. It's called Moana. We'll check it out next on KWOC.